Were there any other questions or comments, or I think my voice is getting a bit hoarse after talking for so long.
Well, Matt, I've got one thing to say.
Yeah, hear me.
I work for a company called Illum Energy. We work on, so brief little plug. We're selling a product for distributing solar on multi-tenant business buildings. It's basically an IoT application, and it's running MicroPython, and we are hiring. So I'll post the job ad in the chat now. Basically, the information's there. If you're interested, or if you know someone who might be interested, then please let them know and pass it on. Cool, short and sweet.
Is that how you spell it?
Illum, A-L-L-U-M-E.
Cool.
Energy.
I'll create something like this, which has the job link in here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
That's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's that later, Matthew. Yep, good.
There's a link in Slack, random.
Yes. Yeah, Slack, and in the Zoom chat here. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, Mike, time to get out of web dev, huh?
In Melbourne, though.
Excellent. Do it. Do it.
You guys have earthquakes.
Wow. Good call.
And
I'm not sure that's right then.
well, we're also pretty flexible to working from home.
We also have less funnel webs, so win-win. You go. And you got to work from home anyway, right? Like at the moment, you got no choice. So.
Very good.
Well, Matt's are you finishing typing that or not?
Yeah, I'll do it later. My brain's a little fried now.
So for those that don't follow me on Twitter, which is fine, be most people here.
Didn't sound like you were fine about it.
I got a port of MicroPython running on the ESP32 S3.
I was going to answer actually, yeah.
And it's currently works with everything that the IDF currently supports, which is not everything. Like they haven't even implemented the ADC stuff or anything yet. But it's I haven't tackled Bluetooth, because I don't even know what stack they're using and how that all works, and that's pretty mature. But I've got Damien's already merged it, so there's a generic S3 board already in there. So if anyone ends up getting one of these, eventually one of the dev kits, that's Espresso's current dev kit. It's not their final silicon yet though, but it's pretty close.
I can't even get my hands on the C3, by the way, at the moment. It's impossible to find.
Well, that's good because they're shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, really bad. Support's really bad. Everything's busted on the C3 at the moment.
Yeah, I've got one, but it's a revision 2 silicon.
Right, yeah, same with mine.
It's a pain in the neck.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, S3, very excited. I mean, the S3 chips, like, they're not going into production until end of this year, so they won't be available mainstream until, first quarter next year. But MicroPython will be ready for it as soon as boards start coming out. So
remind us again what the S3 highlights are.
I just put a Malteser in my mouth, but sure. So it's back to the dual core, 240 megahertz. It's the LX7 cores instead of the 6 from the original ESP32. It's still Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz, but it's got a stronger radio, and it takes slightly less power, which is great. It's got Bluetooth back again, but Bluetooth 5. They keep calling it Bluetooth 5, and they're not putting a point anything at the end of it. I know that they are 5.0 certified, and I'm pretty sure that they could be 5.1 certified. I think they're waiting still to see what certifications they get before they announce what stuff they're supporting. And like with everything Espresso, it ships with whatever, and then over time, more stuff will get added. It's got obviously native USB, like the ESP32 S2, which is pretty cool. It's got pretty much the same peripherals, but it's got more peripherals. the S2 was cut down a little bit, but it's got some neural stuff in it, some AI stuff which they haven't really spoken about yet. There's really not a lot inside the IDF about it, but they're already using that for some of their products they've been showcasing to do things like full voice or speech to text on the device without having to go online, like up to 200 words that you can do, like a little mini, assistant type thing using this stuff. So that's pretty exciting. And like they've got telephony apps and stuff like that they're all doing with their little, they're calling an AI something, but it's basically like a little neural engine of some description. The board itself's got 512K of SRAM, can support up to 1 gigabyte of flash and 1 gigabyte of extra SPI RAM, which is pretty amazing. And also supports the not the quad, but the octal for both flash and SPI RAM. And and they're actually releasing a version that's got built-in 8 megabytes of SPI RAM, but that's octal. And so basically the throughput is incredible, but you lose a stack of extra IO from that. Trying to think what else, the obvious stuff. Oh, it's got a built-in DMA controller in it. So it doesn't just have DMA channels for some peripherals, you've got a full DMA controller that you can set up. I think you've got 5 channels that you can work with, which is pretty cool. And it's got 2 ULPs. You can only run one at a time though. One of them is a RISC-V ULP, just like the S2's got. The other one is no one knows anything about features yet, but like a full state machine ULP. So thinking PIO, something similar to PIO, maybe programmable state machine that runs as a co-processor as opposed to just their own individual things. And if you choose that, you can obviously run it while the device is asleep, which is pretty exciting. So, yeah.
So the S2, I think, actually supports the new RISC-V ULP as well as the old.
No, the S2's only got the RISC-V ULP.
Okay, I saw it the other day in the. Okay, never.
It's also got a form of the state machine ULP, but never been. But there's no support for it. So apparently that's in the S2 hardware.
Right. Okay.
Never announced originally because still not operational, I think. Yeah. So this is the replacement for the current ESP32. Like it's there would be no point using an old, the current version of ESP32 once the S3 is out. It's got everything the current one's got plus extras.
Well, unless it was cost, I guess.
No. They're being super aggressive. I can't say anything, but they're being super aggressive on pricing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So assuming they can get them made. Assuming they can get fair time. Yeah, no, they want to take over the market with it.
So they intending to keep the C3 for the cheap stuff as well, or?
Sure.
That's meant to be like the A266 sort of replacement, right? Like,
yeah, and they've got the C6 coming, and the H2 coming, and the S4 coming, and they're pretty much going to have more SKUs than SCM will at the end of the day. But I'm
hoping you or someone else will talk about. Okay, I'd love to see a table of all the different things so I can keep the different variants in. Like, it's really hard to figure out which ones are supporting what.
I have a graphic table shot like from a video, but it lists the bare minimum because there's just so much stuff that they do. Like just the peripherals list is pretty insane. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm quite excited about it. I want to see how much lower the power is going to be on it for the radios. Yeah,
ESP32 is pretty thirsty.
Yeah, but the C6 is where it's at. Like the C6, they've announced Wi-Fi, 5G as well as 2.4, and they've announced the ability to keep the Wi-Fi on in deep sleep mode.
Right. Okay.
Or in
So
sorry,
to
in sleep
maintain
mode.
the connection.
In sleep mode, yeah, you can maintain the connection. You can't transmit, or yeah, I believe you can receive. You can't transmit. But the killer for an SP32 right now is, even with a static IP address, which is much better, when you wake the device up and have to then connect to the router, it takes way more time to do that than it does to send whatever packets or receive some packets and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And so you spend 90% of your battery costs just connecting to the your AP.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, if that can stay connected the whole time while you're asleep, you wake up, send your data, go back to sleep. The round trip would be, you could do it in probably sub 500 milliseconds.
Sounds like maybe you could have a wake on LAN too at that rate, potentially.
Possibly. I mean, there's LAN support on it.
Yeah, if there's a received connection maintained, then that would make sense. You'd be able to ping it,
Yeah.
send the wake on LAN sort of message to it to wake it up or something maybe.
Yeah. Well, you can kind of do that just with I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it could be in deep sleep, but you can remotely wake it up to do something or talk to it.
Yeah, you'd have to think that they could do something like that, right?
Surely.
Well, otherwise, why would you keep the radio on when you're asleep?
No, because you don't have to connect when you wake up, which is the killer.
Ah, okay.
Right. So like if right now, like if you're not using a static IP address, if you're using DHCP, if you wake up an ESP32, connect to your router, and then send data, you're talking, it could be up to 14 seconds before you can IP address, right? If you could drop that 14 seconds off, I mean, that's, you could go from 6 hours of battery to 3 weeks of battery, right?
And that's why I wrote the ESP Now support.
Right.
Yeah.
ESP Now
It's perfect for that.
it's great. It's really good, but it's still really expensive radios, right? And they need to be on all the time. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can do something like that still in their sleep mode as well. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you. I don't suppose anyone knows a Matt van der Werken, I think his name was, in Brisbane. No, okay. They've commented on that amoeba court. Yeah. Look at that later. Dad, I'm impressed. You're still awake.
I actually found it quite interesting. I had no idea what you were talking about, but I was really impressed that everybody got their acronyms spot on. Sean, Sean, sorry, is it?
It's okay. Yeah.
You're so entertaining to listen to. I think I could listen to you for hours.
Really?
Yeah.
These people want me to shut up. So.
But you're so. The difference is that you've got an industry that is absolutely ruthless, but you're passionate about being ruthless. It's really good to see. I could have spoken about that poo in the poo lines because that's something that I get involved in.
It's right up your alley.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll let that go for when I get more positive interest in having heard about the same thing. But there are problems in the industry, serious problems that that camera is totally useless. However, it's becoming absolutely needed and required because the industry is not doing the work that it used to do 20 years ago. In other words, they're not laying pipes the way they're supposed to lay pipes, and they get their ups and downs in the pipes, and that causes backups. Then when the soil moves, it causes blockages. They don't know where it is, so they've got to put the camera down. So it's become very, very important, although if the work was done properly in the first place, it probably wouldn't. But that's another story.
Is that cost-cutting issues, or is that training issues? Or
It's industry. It is training issues. It is ignorance. It is bloody-mindedness, and it's laziness.
But as Matt knows, it's always cheaper to just fix it in software
Well, how do you do that with a 20-meter pipe?
Yeah, send a robot down there.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. When they do these drains, they can get these little dingo machines very easily, but nobody wants to dig a trench because they used to be a pride of the job at one stage, but not today. They you know how they put you got to have a grade on the pipe. You know how they put a grade on the pipe?
Yeah.
The easy way. They dig a level trench bottom, and they put more screenings at one and in the other, and that gives you the grade. It's just totally wrong, and that's where the camera picks it all up. But enough of my preaching. I've enjoyed it actually, Matt. Thanks for letting me come in and listen, because I've learned a lot, but I just don't know what I've learned.
Always welcome.
Don't worry.
Yes. So much of Phil and Damien starts getting into the weeds.
Yeah.
I've got to go in for a second, but I'll be back in a few minutes. So if you want to talk amongst yourselves.
A question for Andrew.
Good. Good. Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can compile that case stuff into my Reflow Master build and see what it does. If I can remember. I took a screenshot of it, I think. Remember what to do. Anyone remember what the name of the define was?
If I could interrupt you, I'm sorry. I'm going to go and
Cool.
leave you to it.
Nice to meet you. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise, all the very best. So just press the leave button.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just leave.
Good night.
So, yeah.
I might head up too, actually. Bye, everyone.
Cool. Catch you, Peter.
Yes, Peter.
Anyone remember what that define was? The cache one?
No, unfortunately.
Near the top of my Git log a second ago. Then I checked out my Windows branch.
Silly.
Because I've got a Windows branch at the moment.
I took a screenshot of the opt computer go-to bit, but I didn't take a screenshot of the other one. Damn it. How do I rewind this video? Can't. How do I
Doesn't
go
even
back,
finish
go back in
recording.
time? Yeah. Oh, I'll have to. Oh, it'll be in a PR, won't it? Hang on.
Yeah, load app. Let's do the load app fast path.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that one yet.
MicroPy opt cache map lookup in bytecode.
And it's not merged yet, is it?
Yes, it's in master. Yeah, it seems to be in master.
Okay, I'm searching the wrong PRs.
This was the commit that removed all the old ones. So I don't know what the thing was to bring in a new one. C merge request 7680.
680. Optimized bytecode dispatch on computer go-to mode. Is that the one? No.
Sounds like it.
That's 7823. Hang on. 680 add cache or bytecode location to map. Opt map caching.
Yeah. Oh yes.
MicroPy
opt map lookup cache seems to be it.
Lookup cache. MicroPy opt map lookup cache. Okay, let's try building this. Oh, I did this in my wrong branch. Son of a bitch. Sorry.
I've done that.
I've started, much to my own horror, making a branch for every single thing that I've been working on a MicroPython individual thing, because Damien hates when you commit multiple things in the same commit.
Yep.
And so, and I keep, I've done it like 5 times today, like gone and changed something and been in the wrong branch, and or the branch has been stale or whatever, like very frustrating. But anything that makes Damien happy, that makes things go faster.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a very, very, very deep backlog of merge quests at the moment. So anything that makes them quicker to review, quicker to test, gives you a better chance. Unlike the merge quests I throw up and have some useful comment feedback on and then never get back to clean up and get into a suitable state.
Yep. Yep. So is that Greg? Okay.
Hey, Andrew, did I see you hold up a LoRa E5 module before from Seed?
Yes, that's actually Matt's module, but yes.
You're looking at porting MicroPython to that?
Thankfully, I didn't have to because Damien already had. Well, Damien had added the support for the chip, the WL, and I just fussed about with it until I got MicroPython on it, which was harder than expected.
You're looking at getting the LoRa WAN stack?
I haven't looked at that at all. I've got a few too many things on the go already. You didn't really get past just getting the REPL up and running. So that was just getting, yeah. There's a merge quest that Damien already had open for the WL E5, whatever. And yeah, there's a bit of, how many notes? I put some notes up on this, yeah, what I got going, and yeah, added a link for a branch pushed up with the STM32 lid changes needed to support that chip. I don't remember now whether I added any details about how, but the seed module is a bit of a pain in the backside to program, so they went out of their way to make that difficult for some reason. It needed a JTAG, and that could not be the nice new ST-J-Link V3 because it doesn't work. It had to be an older ST-Link. But it was possible and got REPL running over the built-in USB UART. So that much worked.
Nice.
Ooh, that did not build.
But is it because of that option or because of something else you've changed on the branch?
Because of that option. All the errors are to do with this thing.
Yeah. Okay, so
Error if with no expression. Oh, right.
maybe some of that supports in Unix or STM32 support specific folders.
I'm pretty sure that that was me. Hang on. Machine pin version control conflict marker in file. What? This was building fine yesterday.
How many times have we heard that?
That's why you need to do your builds in Docker containers, and then they're always reproducible.
I don't want them reproducible. I'm bleeding edge IDF, like yeah, no, it's not that. It's I might have
Broken something?
I thought I did a clean. No, it's compiled. No, it's done it again. So machine dot when it's linking it. That's really bizarre. Hang on, 625.
They're not fit anymore.
624. Oh.
I'm going to head off, but thanks for the talk, Matt. It was good.
No worries. Hope it was okay.
Yeah, nah, it's good. Always good to see.
We're going to try and get down to B.
Trying to get down. Crazy. They say it can't be done.
Catch you later, Ollie.
Good to see you, Matt.
Good luck. Hope
Yeah.
it speeds up. Yeah. See you all next month.
As well, guys. See you later.
See you, Nathan. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, no, wait.
See
See
you.
you Monday.
That's it. Bye.
That's it.
Just a question before everybody else heads off. If any of you guys had any experience using something like Modbus or RS485 on with MicroPython?
I have not.
I don't want to use Wi-Fi. I don't want to use necessary LoRa. But I want to be able to daisy chain micro controllers.
Yeah,
I've
I
just
used
spent
for
last-
F5 in the past, but not on MicroPython. That was
Yeah,
a long
I'm the
time
same.
before MicroPython existed.
Yeah.
And look, it worked, but it was all very much like, I guess the point of 4.5 is you custom packets, custom protocols, custom everything to suit your own need. It just means you have to design something suitable to suit your own need.
Hmm.
Whereas, yeah, I know Modbus is a bit of a love or hate thing. Some people love it, and others are like, why on earth would you ever use something so rubbish? But people say the same thing about CAN too. It's a very much a love or hate protocol.
Hmm.
There was a Modbus question on the forum recently. I don't know what the state of that is. Just taking a look now.
I've got a building I'm about to deploy, but I'm just doing a test first to get some times from the old code base. Take a copy of that. Okay, now I'm going to deploy.
I got to run as well, guys. Thanks for today. This is my first one. I'm a bit of a beginner, but I learned a lot about different devices. I think I'm going to buy this Pine Watch. That seems interesting.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah. All right. Thank
Cool,
you.
nice to meet you, Dave.
Enjoy. See you
Nice to
later.
meet you all. Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Into download mode.
Yeah, there are a bunch of mentions of Modbus in the forum.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
seen MicroPython Modbus library, which doesn't look like it's been touched in the 3 years since when it was originally written, but it's there.
That's still a lot newer than Modbus itself. So
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There's 3 on awesome MicroPython.
Ah,
What about CAN? With the little bit of work I was doing with the CMDs, the serial hardware serial stuff supports CAN, but and I did buy some drivers. I don't think the software modules are written, maybe in CircuitPython, but any of you guys used CAN bus?
I have actually. I've used CAN bus a few times, but I have used CAN bus with MicroPython as well.
I think
So-
STM32's got a built-in, doesn't it? It's got a built-in CAN.
Yeah, yep,
So it's part of the PYB module.
that's right. Yep,
Okay.
works really well.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Actually, I used. No. I used some CAN stuff on an ESP. No, that was ESP talking to an L367 or ODB CAN interface chip. So that was abstracting the CAN. No, I think I did a little bit of direct CAN on an STM32 board to talk to a car, and then got sick of that and bought the module off the internet.
I'll just send a link on the Zoom chat.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, I have no metrics to qualify, but it definitely feels faster.
Nice.
Unfortunately, the logging I was doing of time was how long it was taking me to build the buffer, not how long it was taking to do all the other stuff. But yeah, like it's going to be hard to. I don't know if I'll be able to show this. So it's on a breadboard, so it's going to break. So I've got a screen there. So that's the menu. This is in MicroPython. When I hit the settings button, that blanking, and then that's me building the screen before it pushes to the buffer, right?
Yeah.
And then so that blanking is at least half the length that it was before. And this saving into the menu is 3 or 4 times faster.
Yeah, that looks usable.
Right. So that saving, I used to show that message because of how long it took to go through all the settings to grab all the data and then serialize it and write it out to JSON, to the file system. And this now, like I almost don't have to have that message there. So this is, yeah, considerably faster than what it was before. But obviously, if I could get it faster still.
Sure.
You just need a better display driver is what it sounds like.
Well, this is, yeah, like I'm using frame buff and everything else is in MicroPython. And, you know, and I said, I'm doing my own font rendering, I'm doing my own font coloring. I'm got an elaborate caching system where I'm not just caching the font as bytes, I'm caching words that get used often as well as bytes. So I just split them straight into the frame buffer. But that's the same problem where the first time it displays them, it's slow. And then it gets faster and faster. That's quite an improvement. I haven't tried the go-to thing, and I haven't put the fast path thing on either. So let me find the fast path.
Cool. Sounds promising. I mean, we definitely need better support around UI rendering to displays. It's frame buff's an okay starting point, but we need a lot more than that.
Sure. But like I'd be happy to publish my font stuff if you know, people were able to use it faster. Like it's
look, I'm still looking forward to when I'm on a project and have an excuse to use the little VGL or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
That I get it. That needs some support. They've made the first steps to making it all build with MicroPython, but yeah, having it. Yeah, phenomenal steps. Oh, we can do more. I think, yeah, especially with the dynamic C module support and things like that now, it should be quite feasible to wrap that up as a neat sort of separate package to include. I think last time I looked across it, they were having questions/queries about how to get basically RAM access, to get access to the root pointers, etc., blah, blah, blah. And I've had the same problems with the Bluetooth support because the Bluetooth stack needs the same chunks of RAM. There's sort of been a little bit of back and forth. Jim, like we need essentially some kind of C API in MicroPython to give me RAM or set aside RAM or organize RAM, whether it's pools of RAM or access to a mallet sort of style interface within C modules in a way that works across soft reboot and in a way that works across things like that. And once that's done or figured out, then yeah, a lot of these other sort of big chunks that make sense to have in C could be done a lot neater. So I think pretty sure of the OpenMV stuff that I've got compiling against mainline MicroPython, pretty sure its RAM buffering support that I've sort of wired in doesn't work over soft reboot. I think if you try and use it over soft reboot, things get bad. Because that's a hard thing.
Soft reboot.
Yeah, I just don't do soft reboot. We just do a hard reboot. So that's fine. But soft reboot, it is, especially on some of these, the platforms like ESP where it lets you persist the Wi-Fi stuff. Soft reboot's a really cool feature.
Yeah, it is.
So,
I forgot to mention, but Peter Hinch has also released a message pack library for MicroPython. It's pretty
awesome.
decent. So it's
What's
all
in
pure
that?
Python at the moment. Sorry, so message pack's a serialization protocol. Think of it like they like to describe it as JSON, but uses a lot less space. So you don't need a schema. You just say, I want to push all of these into an array of bytes, send that on the wire for some reason, and then I can decompress it, not knowing what the schema is on the other side. Decompresses on the fly. So it's basically like a description on how you would pack integers, floating points, strings, all the rest of it. That's built into the protocol. And so when you encode it, you need to follow those rules. When you decode it, you follow the same rules, and you get back a whole bunch of what you can take Python objects, squish them just like you would. What's the JSON command? ujson.pack, I think it is. There's a message pack.pack and an equivalent unpack.
How much does it compress the stuff down? Any idea?
Well, compared to JSON, that's very efficient.
Not compared to JSON. I'm thinking for Sam. Remember how I'm doing all that stupid moving stuff into all those bytes and bitwise manipulations to try to encode as much data as possible into the limit I've got on Bluetooth in the data portion.
Yep.
That'll still probably be more optimized than what this will do, though.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking compression here, but it basically there's usually like a tag to describe what the type is, and then the type itself. So it's fairly space efficient, but it's not perfect.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I'll send a link in the chat window.
Be good for obfuscating save data, like stuff you're storing, loading it back up.
It's good for a bunch of things. Yeah, it's good for a bunch of things.
It's been a pet peeve of mine in some sort of doing communication between two objects, and you want to send like a whole structure of data that, yeah, if you've got to keep your structures in sync between both sides, like I'm going to send this list of objects and this list of objects, and they've got to be all lined up, synced perfectly, and you change one and you've got to go change the other and make sure there's all this duplication. And anytime you have a duplication structure, it's maintenance, it's busy work to try and keep them up to date. So yeah, any protocol that fixes that is always a big win in my view. If you can define it in one place and one place only, awesome.
There's message packs. The other thing is it's nice because you can drop that onto a wire, and then on the other end there's implementations for every language. Although the message pack website seems to be broken at the moment. They usually have like a list of languages that are supported. That's weird. And the specs, yeah, out in the open. It's written on like a big GitHub spec.md page. Yeah, it's one of my favorites of the serialization kind of breaks down to two different categories. You either know what you're sending ahead of time, and so you have like an IDL or something which defines how you're going to send things, and then like you have a schema which describes what you want to send, and then you conform to that schema. So it's sort of quite static. Or you have it dynamic, like JSON, like message pack, where you can just throw things together and tell it to be serialized, and then on the other side, it's dynamic enough that you would just get objects out of it. Anywho, maybe I'll cover that next month.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. Sian, can you post that reference to the S2 MicroPython download?
Yep. So Jim's actually working on a new downloads page that's fully dynamic. So you'll like right now there's only a select bunch of boards on there that Damien has to hand put on there. But this thing will be like the CircuitPython one, where it'll dynamically pick up all the different boards, all the builds, and so it'll automatically update itself, which will be good. But it's close, but it's not ready yet, apparently.
been a long-standing beef of a lot of people.
Yeah, didn't know Jim was actually working on it.
Yeah, he's very close. He's very, very close.
Yeah, I've seen screenshots. It looks pretty good.
So that I just posted the link there, Alan, in the chat.
Thanks.
So that's got every build, every version of every build for every board. There's a lot of builds in there. But you'll find all the Feather S2 and the Feather S2 Neo stuff in there as well, and Tiny S2.
I've forgotten that page exists. Actually, I've come across it a couple of times. On what Jim's working on, like the difference between CircuitPython actually has like a very static definition of all of those builds. So there's actually a separate repository which powers that download list. And that was something that Damien, like we looked at using the CircuitPython system. But yeah, Damien felt that like we've got all the board definitions, they're consistent in how they're described. Why not just parse them to populate that list? And so I think that's what
it is, but then you still have to manually go and add all the extra metadata yourself per board.
Yeah, it does.
Missing and stuff. Yeah. So he's been doing that now. Like he's almost finished going through all the STM. Yeah, it's always STM. STM gets everything first, and STM holds up everything, right?
Yep.
So
it's his Arduino.
Yeah. Love the background. Right. Love the background.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, look, that'll be exciting. I think that, I mean, I've been having to like host my own firmware on GitHub, and people like all the time pinging me, you know, like when are you going to support MicroPython on the Feather S2? Well, I do, like, you know, have for ages, but it's not available. Like they go to the download page and there's nothing in there, right?
Yeah.
And they go, there's no S2 support at all. Well, yeah, there is, but it's just not on the download page. So it'd be good to get this sorted.
Yeah.
Okay, I've now got the fast path, and I've enabled the go-to stuff, and I've got the caching happening.
You don't blink. Yeah.
And can't tell the difference anymore. So it is faster overall. Like that's now if Michael just get his driver. He's don't even need much.
Which driver is this?
Mike's working on a TFT, an ILI.
Really 9. Is it a 9 series 9?
Yeah, 39. Wasn't no, I can never remember the number. Not 341, what 3941, whatever it is. Yeah. He's working on a native and a C version, aren't you, Mike? He's nodding. He's not.
Yes.
Is it the 320 by 240?
Yep.
Really 9341, I think it is.
Yep.
Yeah, cause you've seen the Lobo code for that. That's a good place to start, perhaps. That was quite quick.
The TFTE SPI.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, some of that implementation, because the Lobo fork supported a whole bunch of chipsets, sort of, and there was a bit of spaghetti code, but they were quite fast. So if you can peel out just the ILI 9341 part of it, that might be useful. Some of it is fine.
The other option is just to take a really good C library, like Larry Banks' library, and just write MicroPython wrappers for that. Like he's got a really fast, really good library for the RLI.
Yeah, you could do that as a dynamic C module now too, that you can just import as a MPD. Wow, MPD? Whatever it was. Yeah, no, I actually haven't made a dynamic C module myself yet. So
there's some, I can't remember them all, but there are some constraints with that. And,
yeah, it's not.
I'm not
trivial.
sure. Yeah.
I spoke to Larry about doing it. He's not interested in MicroPython. Like he's a low-level C guy. Like
yeah.
It's just too abstract for him. But you know, he's keen to help anyone that wants to port it / write a wrapper for it.
Okay.
He just doesn't want to do that work himself because he's got no way of testing it or whatever. He doesn't know Python. He's not interested in learning Python. But it's really fast. Like it's.
I'm sure if it's got anything to do with Larry's fingerprints all over it, yeah, I'm sure it is.
Like his font rendering alone is like 4 or 5 times faster than the Adafruit library.
Yeah.
Comparable Adafruit library. So yeah.
Cool. Larry's the guy who OpenMV employed, just for, I'm sure you know, Sean, but yeah, he's the guy that OpenMV employed to make a lot of their recent performance improvements.
He calls himself Mr. Optimization. Like he does, like he gets off on just, you know,
shaving single-digit percents off.
Yeah, the lowest level, like, you know, make things faster type guy. Yeah, he's got some really good stuff. Like he's written a like a GIF player, and he's got a really fast JPEG loader now.
Yeah, I've actually highlighted a couple of his libraries in the past here, and not realizing that they were his. I only really learnt who he was in the last handful of months. So. I just sent a link to the to his LCD OLED library, which is interesting because it supports a few of the chipsets.
Yep.
It would be a neat one to wrap.
Yeah, neatly designed. It shouldn't be too hard to wrap, but again, I presume it'll need buffers and whatnot.
But I'm sure Mike will do good work as well. So yeah, whatever. It works.
I mean, if you could be hooked in somehow with FrameBuff.
Well, it doesn't have to use FrameBuff. I mean, it's just FrameBuff's an implementation of a canvas that happens to be fairly lightweight and fast. But,
right, and featureless, but lightweight and fast, right? That's what I'm saying. So if it could be somehow hooked in with that, where people who are using FrameBuff could keep using FrameBuff. Like I'm using FrameBuff, but then the hit is I have to take that data and then in Python blit it to the, you know, to the display. Like that should never leave C land. Like, you know, if it's already built in FrameBuff, it should be pushed to the screen in C. You know, I mean that's the minimum viable thing. Like if everything else was done in Python, big deal, right?
And yeah, that sort of wiring together shouldn't be too hard. Like if it's using the stream IO, like the stream interface, then yeah, you can connect them in C, and they are. MicroPython is C, so it's not that it's going in and out of C and Python land, but it just depends on whether it's going through Python how many Python VM functions, shuffling things around, or if it's a stream IO, then it should be a pretty direct copy. Don't know whether you're not going to get DMA very easily if it's a streams interface though. So DMA is still very hardware dependent too. Chip dependent. But
yeah. Very
but
chip dependent.
Yeah, but the stream interface is the starting point. Will be logical to have them get exposed in that sort of API, and then that'd be pretty efficient. As efficient as it can be without DMA, honest.
A couple of times I've jumped into FrameBuff and wanted to expand it with some basic stuff, like be able to, you know, write colored fonts. Like, you know, there's support for multicolor canvases, but you can only do a monochrome font, and you can only do a single size font, right? Like even be able to just do like, so all of my software, I'm just using like a single bitmap font, and I'm just scaling it. Like I don't, you know, you can't do a 1 point and a 3 point and a 4 point and a 5 point font. It's like normal font, or it's double, or it's, you know, ×2, it's ×3, ×4. I mean, that's just really basic maths. That should be that should be built into FrameBuff. Like that should be really easy. But instead, I'm having to do all that myself.
Well, I kind of think there should be like a separate sort of an orthogonal font handling library that works with FrameBuff, but would be in C as well. But
oh, it doesn't. Yeah, it can be separate too, but it's got to be in C. That's the point. Like right now, my system
it will be performance sensitive.
Yeah, I have to cache every font size, every letter, every glyph that I use in every size, in every color. Like that is just retarded that I have to do that.
Yeah.
Right, just to get performance. You know, and that's because it's the cost of rebuilding the glyph every time at a certain multiplication size is just too much. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, but a single size monochrome font's kind of limiting on making a nice user interface. Like it's great if all you've got is a little tiny OLED, right? That's 64 pixels high and that's all you can do. But for a screen that's a bit bigger, you want to be able to give people slightly larger fonts.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is looking promising, like promising enough that I might continue in MicroPython for the moment.
Just enough. With that and the PWM support,
yeah, well, I've got PWM now solved, and I've got slightly faster runtime.
And you just need a font rendering library, and you'd be sorted.
No, well, maybe I can rewrite some of my code now to make it use this caching. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll have to go and remember how I did it all. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
Very good. Anyone else got anything exciting and fun they're playing with? I came across an article about the Raspberry Pi 4 and how to get bare metal OS written on it. And it doesn't look too hard.
Yeah, it is.
That's
what Scott was doing on his deep dive last week.
I heard Scott was looking into that as well, actually.
Yeah, and he's been wanting to for a very long time, and
yeah,
he had 7 articles open live on the stream, and people posting links to more and more and more, and it's
looks easy.
He couldn't get anything to. He couldn't get. He's got to start with USB.
Sorry,
he was starting with USB, and he couldn't get it to work properly, and there was. It's so full on. It's so full on because it's a GPU. The whole thing's it's
okay.
Okay, he was okay. So he's just sitting in pure assembler.
Yeah, you have to start in assembler. Yeah,
right. Okay,
but that's been documented, and it should be pretty straightforward to get to the point where you got like a C application running. That I've seen documented pretty clearly.
Sure. Well, who's starting with you?
There's a lot more to do beyond that. But, yeah.
Anything circuit? Well, because he's trying to get circuit Python ported, right?
Well, like the same with USB is tough. That's the
everything in circuit Python starts with USB. No USB, no circuit Python, right?
Yeah. Well, unless you can get BLE now.
Sure. Which doesn't quite work properly yet. It's not usable yet. Like it works, but you can't really do anything with it.
Yeah, I'm also a bit frustrated he decided to do his own BLE thing. I mean, it makes sense. It's the right decision for Scott. But like at work, we've gone down the OTS path, which is a standard BLE set of protocols. And it's not the most wonderful spec in the world, but at least it's documented and standard and, well.
Yeah, if you can't blame anyone else for not using OTS because no one had ever heard of it before.
Sure.
Unless you go delving through the few million pages of BLE core spec and you're like, oh, what's this? This looks good. What, no one's used it before? It doesn't matter, we can do it.
Yeah.
He did discuss at the start, like when he started working on it, and I can't remember what it was. He went through all this reasoning about why he's using this and why that and why he made his choices.
Yeah, I spoke to him about it. I told him about OTS. But he wanted something simpler. But I think, well, I don't know. We'll see.
Whether you agree with their choices or not about a lot of the decisions they make, right? They are well thought out decisions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Decisions you agree with or not is a different thing, but they do really take time to think about.
100%. Yeah.
They don't do knee-jerk reactions, right? Which is good, but
no, there are things that I would do differently, but it's because my requirements are different. I think almost every decision they make, I go, yep, that's the right thing for them to be doing. That's great. Good on them. My issue is that I'm a different audience. Like I want more of the processes than they're prepared to give me.
There's been so many heated discussions on my Discord server, like to the point where I never implemented any community guidelines, and I'm paying for it now.
Right. Okay.
There have been people who have taken their bat and ball and left, and it's been quite full on opinionated about things, it's the whole CircuitPython, or you're teaching everyone really bad ways to write software, no threading means people can't code like blah, blah, blah. And if they can't code like blah, 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 then you're teaching them the wrong way to code. and how do they ever transplant their knowledge to a different language? And then you get other people going, that's just bullshit. And, how many people really need, this or that, or like, you know what I mean? And it's just.
That software developers have opinions, yeah.
Oh, but it's full on. Like it's, yeah, like you can't please anyone on there, but there's so many different opinions and everyone's right, Yeah. Everyone's got a valid case, but everyone's only thinking about it from their own perspective.
And their own experience. There's a lot of highly embedded C developers are at the peak of their field who wouldn't touch dynamic memory for very good reasons for specific projects. And for them, MicroPython's dead in the water.
Yep.
And look, to be honest, right now, I wouldn't use MicroPython to create a pacemaker.
What are you saying?
There are certain things that I wouldn't really be comfortable jumping into, because it depends on the use case.
Yeah, sure. But these people have become very blind to, if it's not good for them, then it can't be good for anyone. Right?
And new ways of doing things. Threads are not. And knowing all of the ins and outs of mutexes and semaphores and events and all that kind of rubbish for managing threads. Yeah, that's crucial stuff to know if you need to program in threads, but you can do some incredibly efficient concurrent programming without threads these days.
Absolutely. But then you got the other people go, that's not real multi-processing.
It's not real concurrency, it's not real multi-processing. And it's
it's like, you know what I mean? Everyone's got a...
Yeah, but if it meets the use case perfectly, then arguably it's perfect.
Right, and the whole thing about no interrupts in CircuitPython, right? And at the end of the day, like I've written a lot of MicroPython. I've written more CircuitPython than I ever thought I would, and I've written shit tons of Arduino code, right? And I have never used an interrupt in any of my code. I could have, but I never have, and I've never needed it, right? But are they a valid thing to have and learn? Absolutely, right? Maybe I'm just picking my projects well, I don't know, but it's that same thing. Like, do people have to understand how interrupts work on embedded hardware to be able to develop on embedded hardware? And I don't believe they do. But
I mean, it all depends. I mean, I wouldn't consider someone a professional embedded developer if they didn't know at least the trade-offs they're making with using interrupts or not.
Right, but the people that are targeting are not professional.
But that's exactly right, and which is why the decision about not to use interrupts is perfectly valid. I don't have a problem with it, but I need them for my development, and so
absolutely. But then the other people come in and say, well, sure, they don't need them, but those people will never become embedded software developers.
I was about to say, you're not necessarily learning bad habits. You're learning the normal way to do things, whereas the interrupts are an extended way of doing things that will give you more power, more control. But like on my project, we started with a lot of things in interrupts and moved them out of interrupts back into regular async code because they didn't need the inconvenience of working in an interrupt context. All that stuff. Like interrupts, it's not an incompatible paradigm. It's more of you've got a normal paradigm and then you've got the advanced version. There's nothing wrong with learning the normal stuff and adding interrupts later or adding threads later if you need that extra stuff.
Sure.
I don't think you're learning bad habits.
It's not even the interrupts that are the issue. That's like, how do people who are just getting started with coding are supposed to understand things like volatile memory, right? And they don't understand why they declare a variable and then they're using it inside an interrupt and then they're trying to read it afterwards and it doesn't work, right? It goes against everything that a variable does that they're taught, right? Whether they're taught wrong or not, it's beside the point. You know what I mean? Like it's like my argument before about like trying to explain to someone the difference between global and local space variables when there's just a whole bunch of stuff. Like they expect it to just work. But variable scoping is like just a programming thing in general. It's not even necessarily an embedded thing. So you can learn that in any language and in any platform. Right, but like, your local and global space is only a problem in embedded. No, let me rephrase that. It's a problem in Python, but who has hardware where it's a problem? Like who owns a PC that's so old that.
Oh, when you're talking about the speed implications,
Yeah,
the
right.
trade-off,
Yeah. And that's the problem. Like so many people are, either coming from Python to embedded, or they start tinkering with MicroPython or CircuitPython and then jump into Python on the desktop.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Gents, I'm going to have to call it quits shortly. If you want to keep talking, go right ahead. But it is 9:30 now.
Oh, past your bedtime. You turn into a pumpkin.
That's right. Yeah. No, feel free to keep talking if you want. I'll hand
What's your dad's name?
Paul.
Paul. I don't think you did. You mention his name earlier, or you said this?
I meant to.
He's not concerned, but yeah. Okay, Paul. Right. Cool. So how come you got him on the meetup tonight?
He's been wanting to come along for a long time. He's got an interest, but he doesn't have a lot of knowledge about how this stuff works. And
okay.
Cool. Nice.
So
like a nice guy.
It's good to have him along.
It's good to have him.
Yeah, he's good value. Yeah, no, I like that.
You didn't even heckle
biased.
you or anything.
Sorry?
You didn't heckle you?
No,
or...
I didn't. I was kind of expecting more, to be honest. But,
I think you subscribed to your channel now, Sam.
Sorry?
I think you subscribed to your YouTube channel.
Did he?
Well, I think he was keen to.
I don't think he knows I've got one. So that's a good.
You got a fan there, Sam, anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Okay, I'm going to go as well. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Good to see you all, even if it was virtually.
Good.
See you all soon.
All right.
Stay safe, everyone.
Hey, folks. Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
Later.